Alright, we're now going to repose our character using the Pose tool on 3D Coat's Sculpt workspace. And the main reason why we're doing that, rather than continuing to repose it here in the retopo workspace, is because we do not have a soft gradient selection capability here inside the retopo room. I've asked Andrew for that capability, and hopefully it'll be coming in a future build, but in the meantime we can use the soft gradient selection from the Pose tool and then use conform retopo mesh to make the retopo objects conform as we're making our transforms. So let's go ahead and get started now. I'll just hover over this object and hit the H key, and this is where the main part of our transform is going to occur. And I can scroll down to the adjust section, click on the Pose tool, and I want to check through all volumes. I'll hide gizmo. We'll use the line selection method first. I want to make sure that I'm using a brush because these selection marquees do not work very well with the line selection. And it might help just a little bit to go into orthographic view. That will kind of help remove any perspective distortion. And I want to try to make my line somewhat perpendicular to this rib on this rubber object here in the torso. So I'll start here. Okay, so I can reselect these other parts with Paint Select. And I'll switch to a freeform lasso. I want to make sure Ignore Back Faces is unchecked so I can go all the way through. So I'll just continue selecting. The reason why I'm going to transform this is most of these objects are pretty low poly as they are, so I don't really have to cache any of the layers like I normally would if I were working on a really dense model. So let's unhide the gizmo, and I can scroll down, center mass. Let me try it again here. Hide the gizmo, and unhide the gizmo, to center mass, to main axis. And I can hold the shift key to reorient the gizmo as I need. Okay, now what I want to do is check conform retopo mesh so that, as the name implies, the retopo mesh will be deformed as well as the high poly object. So I'll click this rotation handle. I'll rotate him laterally. So I want to give myself a little more real estate to work with. Okay, so let's clear the selection. I'll hide the gizmo. And now I want to rotate the neck just a little bit. So I'll do the same thing. I'll go back to the line selection. And again, I need to go back to a brush, uncheck conform retopo mesh. So let's switch to Paint Select. Alright. Go back to brush, hide gizmo, and I'm not sure why it's showing up there. Let's try select object, hide gizmo, select that object. Okay. we go. Hold the shift key. Conform retopo mesh. I'm going to hold the shift key and reset the gizmo just a little bit. And now we'll go ahead and make our transform. Hold the shift key to move the action center. I'll clear the selection. I'm now going to speed up the playback while I clean up this part on the back side here using the same tools. What I'll do now is go back to Sculpt workspace. I'm going to select this chest plate object and just assign a standard shader to it. That way it's a little easier to see as I work. And I'll hide all the buttons. Just rename that. So I've got a single polygon here. I've got to split up. I'll just use the add split tool, reduce my brush size. Now I'm going to switch to the transform tool. And each time I want to make an extrusion, I just hit the enter key and it will allow me to continue creating extrusions this way. The enter key. And this will also work for edges as well, but they need to be open edges. And to exit out of the tool, all you have to do is hit the escape key. To drop the selection, hit the escape key once again. And while I'm doing this, I turn auto snapping off because I don't want it trying to snap while I'm cutting this up. Once I'm done, select the faces and go back to the transform tool. Again, just use the enter key and it commits the extrusion and begins the new one.